Not every villain is pure evil. Some villains are just personalities that we love to hate. Combat sports and entertainment are no strangers to the duality between heroes and villains. Whole narratives are often built around the good guys and the bad guys, bringing more and more attention to matchups and therefore more revenue. But in the real politics behind combat sports, not everything is so simple. There are no heels or faces, no true villains or pure heroes, just fighters, athletes, human beings attempting to make a living, gain momentum in their sport, and stay healthy. But that doesn't mean that fans and experts don't love to hate them. Wrestler and mixed martial artist Brock Lesnar is a king of fight world controversy. As a pro wrestler in the WWE, he debuted and became infamous as a vicious heel, a gigantic force to be reckoned with. In the UFC, he made a brutal name for himself despite only appearing in 8 matches. He has spent his career bouncing back and forth between WWE and the UFC, to the extent that neither fanbase knows what's next for him anymore. Some love him, some hate him, others are just perplexed by him.
I think that people don't give Brock Lesnar enough credit just because he came from the WWE. What people don't realize is this guy was a world-class wrestler in college. You know, he was the best heavyweight wrestler out there.
The other side of this coin is Lesnar's terrible. That's the one thing that we never talk about because he's such a good draw and such a good presence, and he won a world championship. But we never talk about the elephant in the room, which is Brock Lesnar sucks.
But through it all, one thing is for sure. Love him or hate him, Brock Lesnar is simply and uniquely himself. A private man, a true athlete, and a giant in his field. Like, share, and subscribe to the Ultimate Fighting Network as we find out what it would really be like to fight WWE and UFC Heavyweight Champion Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was born in the small town of Webster, South Dakota, and was raised on his parents' dairy farm. Farming would become a long-time part of Lesnar's life, continuing into his adulthood. Lesnar briefly played football in high school and would return to the sport again later in his career for a brief preseason period. Do you know what NFL team Lesnar played for in 2004? Comment below or keep watching to find out. After a brief stint in the Army National Guard, unsuccessful due to his color blindness, Lesnar would go on to work as a construction worker before taking up wrestling in college. He was very successful in his amateur wrestling endeavors, with a final record of 106-5 and multiple NCAA championships. Soon after, he signed with the World Wrestling Federation in 2000 and began his career under on-screen manager and eventual longtime friend, Paul Heyman, debuting in 2002 as a heel. The next few years saw Brock Lesnar pitted against some of the giants of wrestling at the time, such as Hulk Hogan, The Rock, The Undertaker, and John Cena, among many others. In 2004, he would leave the WWE for the first time and would not return to the ring until 2012. Lesnar entered the world of mixed martial arts in 2006 when he joined Heroes, a K1 league. He trained and fought briefly under the K1 banner until he joined the UFC in 2008, a move that was initially touted by fans and pundits as a publicity stunt because of his time in the WWE. But Lesnar more than proved his worth as a mixed martial artist, moving up the division rankings until he defeated Randy Couture that year for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Lesnar's main attribute, especially in the UFC, was his size. Whether he showed much technical ability as a fighter, his advantage was always in his sheer manpower. At 6'3" with an 81-inch reach and a build weight of 286 pounds, Brock Lesnar was a beast, both in the wrestling ring and in the octagon.
I would also say that big gorilla can fucking punch any person on the planet with those lunchbox fists, and you're fucked. He's so big, man.
Yeah.
When you stand next to Brock, you're just like, oh, You're a totally
He's a
different thing than
blonde
me.
silverback.
Yeah.
He's as close to a silverback as I've ever seen him.
He's a Viking, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's a
Long arms.
giant human.
Yeah.
Ridiculous fists.
With a size advantage that dramatic, Lesnar's fighting style has certainly followed suit. He may not be the most technical fighter, not even by a long shot, but his brute strength more than makes up for it. He has an orthodox stance, and besides wrestling, he has been trained in boxing as well as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because of his size, Lesnar is a master at the ground and pound, taking his opponents to the floor and beating them mercilessly until submission or knockout. This was always Lesnar's wild card in facing more technically trained fighters. One wrong move from them, and he could overwhelm them with sheer physical power. Brock's initial career in the UFC was short and brutal. In the 8 matches he fought, the 9th was a no contest, he won 5, 3 by knockout. With a championship in his grasp, by 2011, Brock Lesnar was named by ESPN as MMA's highest paid athlete at $5.3 million. But later that same year, Lesnar lost the title to Alistair Overeem, and he retired from MMA. That is until 2016, when he would return to the cage for another brief time. As usual, no one knew where Lesnar's loyalties would lean from one year, one contract to the next.
Is there any part of you inside that thinks if I go in and I'm successful and I'm right back to where I was when I was champion, then maybe this could launch a little bit of a continued career?
This may be a teaser, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I have no idea. I never say never, you know. We'll see.
Upon returning to the WWE in 2012, Lesnar leaned heavily on his time in the UFC for his in-ring gimmick, using a Kimura lock along with his signature of multiple suplexes, and wearing MMA-style gloves in his matches. But Lesnar's most famous finishing move of his wrestling career, both inside and outside the WWE, was called the F5, or the Verdict, a fireman's carry facebuster, which was a crowd favorite. Lesnar continued to appear in the WWE through its various iterations, stepping away to the UFC and then coming back, until his contract purportedly ended in August of 2020. By September, rumors had begun that Lesnar was in talks with the UFC once again to fight Jon Jones.
And the last thing from me, obviously there's news that Brock Lesnar is once again a free agent. Have you any interest in re-signing him if he's willing to come back to fight?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you know, I talked to TMZ about that one today too. I was like, if they both want to fight each other, I'm sure it's a fight that the fans would want to see, and it would be a good introduction for Jones into the heavyweight division. So, yeah, if they wanted to do it, I would do it.
This uncertainty has been a hallmark of Lesnar's career. A deeply private person outside of his on-screen appearances, Brock Lesnar keeps his decisions and moves very close to his chest, leaving fans and experts to only speculate what his next move will be.
I'm not buying this whole retirement thing because lest we forget, we have been down this road before with Brock Lesnar. He says he's retired. He was on ESPN talking to our own Michelle Beadle a few years ago, said he was done, and then he came back to fight at UFC 200 against Mark Hunt. So I'm not buying this retirement thing. In the world of sports, you actually get to announce that you're retired. You don't let someone else do the retirement announcement for you.
When one contract ends with the WWE, another with the UFC seems to begin. But then, he bounces back. After multiple serious health scares that would be career-ending for any other fighter, Lesnar not only heals, but returns to fighting like nothing happened.
And I'm here because my best friend was on his deathbed. You know, that's not an exaggeration. You know, a lot of people say, oh, this guy had diverticulitis and he wasn't on his deathbed. He had a severe case, and it's even downplayed how bad it was. He almost died.
He throws curveballs into his career, such as his 2004 turn to football, playing several preseason games with the Minnesota Vikings, and even featuring in football cards from that year. He has been no stranger to substance abuse, claiming that drugs and alcohol have blurred a few years of the WWE from his memory, and testing positive for clomiphene before he could face Mark Hunt in UFC 200. Brock Lesnar has ridden the tide of public opinion seemingly unfazed. He is fairly soft-spoken in interviews, a far cry from his fearsome persona. He despises celebrity, preferring to work on his farm in rural Saskatchewan and spend his time with his family, rather than appear on talk shows or play a part. He may be a villain to some, but he's a complex one. A beast, but not seeking any fame. Lesnar marches to the beat of his own drum, entering the ring or the cage at his leisure. He'll wear the mask of the villain for you. He'll be the heel if that's what you want. But in the end, he doesn't care what you think. Brock Lesnar is monstrous, unpredictable, and a true giant of combat sport.
Like I said, when I first got into this business, I didn't ask for. I don't think I've been given too many favors, other than just getting my ass thrown into the wolves, and that's what I'm prepared for. So, and I think when you enter this arena, that and anytime a fighter enters the octagon, the slate is wiped clean. Because it's just it's a whole other arena in there.